Welcome to the Real CP Show. I am your host, CP. And today's topic, freedom of speech. Wait a minute now. Wait. But not for the not for the Black Americans overall. And we're not talking about the gullible and naive ones that have no idea how illogical they sound and are used within sectional Americanism and by other people who can care less about them. We're going to also use ChatGPT also. I was going to show a couple of clips first, but let's just go straight into the ChatGPT just for a few minutes. It's not the one that I like to use per se at this particular version for different reasons, but let's just utilize what we can utilize as of right now on this situation. You there?
Yep, I'm here.
I want to talk about just for a few minutes about this thing called the First Amendment in the United States.
Sure. The First Amendment is a really interesting topic. In simple terms, it protects several core freedoms from government interference, including speech, religion, the press, peaceful assembly, and petitioning the government. A lot of debates come down to where those protections start, where they stop, and how they apply in real life. What part
Okay.
do you think?
Okay, let's go with that for a second. Well, let's see this N-word usage, right? You have people that just diabolical, dastardly, they just feel that they want to use it so bad, the N-word.
I hear what you're getting at, but it's worth grounding this a bit. In the US, under the First Amendment, even very offensive speech, including racial slurs like the N word, is generally protected from government punishment just for being said.
Hold on, that part what you're saying, which is illogical. Because here's the thing about it. The N-word is a hate-filled word that came to an existence in America based upon a hateness toward Black Americans. So the thing about it is, let's go with that, what you're saying, which is illogical, because you know as well as I know, if Black Americans were going to another country, this in America, and just started utilizing what Black Americans would say, oh my goodness, well, this is toward that culture. Well, it's just a general word. It's not a threatening word. But somebody say, no, that's hate filled. Well, no, it's not. It should be protected speech. That's a double hypocrisy. Do you understand that?
I get the tension you're pointing at. You're basically saying there's a contradiction. On one hand, the law protects offensive speech, but on the other hand, society treats certain words, especially the N word, as uniquely harmful because of history. A couple things help untangle that. First, the legal system under the First Amendment isn't really deciding whether speech is moral, fair, or hypocritical.
No. We're not going to hear all that nonsense because we know already, again, the historicalness of the diabolical, the hatred of the N word is a very offensive, very dangerous word that it wasn't used toward what we call Native Americans. It wasn't used what we call Anglos, of course. It wasn't used what we call against Anglo adjacent. It wasn't what we call Chinese. It wasn't going against what we call Koreans. It wasn't what we call immigration. It wasn't against what we call border break illegal immigrants. I'm pretty sure you understand that, right? The N word was not used against them.
You're right about the core historical point. In the United States, the N word is uniquely tied to the history of slavery, segregation, and anti Black racism. That history is specifically why it carries a different weight than other insults.
That's what I'm getting at. Let's not go past that part, right? That's all I'm getting at. Nobody else has had to have such a dastardly, offensive history toward them more than Black Americans. Because you're talking about, if I just utilize 400 years ago in the 1600s, most other cultures and backgrounds didn't even exist in America. I'm pretty sure you understand that, right? So they couldn't have the hatred that Black Americans are going through, because most of these cultures and backgrounds and alternative lifestyle categories weren't even around to have, oh my goodness, freedom of speech. Do you understand?
I understand the point you're trying to make. You're focusing on the idea that the specific history of anti Black slavery and racism in the United States makes that harm uniquely severe, and that this should matter when we talk about speech and the law. You're right about the history in one important sense. Anti Black slavery in what became the United States is foundational and long running in a way that shaped the country itself. And that history still affects how language like the N word is understood
That's
today.
all I want to go toward. So the only thing I'm sitting there saying is that, so the freedom of speech, right? Well, was based upon the First Amendment of the Constitution, and when did that happen? When did the First Amendment speech component, when did it come to existence in America?
The speech part of the First Amendment comes from the Bill of Rights, which was ratified in 1791. So that's the key date. The First Amendment, including freedom of speech, officially became part of the Constitution in 1791.
I stop right there. That's 1791. You still did not have many Hispanics in America. You did not have Irish or Polish Anglo adjacent. You didn't sit there and have immigrationists all over the place. You didn't have numbers of Indians from India all over the place. Do you understand? So the thing about it is, you didn't have what we call even Mexicanos in 1791. Wouldn't even thought about it in the 1790s. So the thing, and you got these various other people that want to use, they weren't even around then. So you got numbers of these groups of people, etc., right, within Americanism, and these various groups that want to use the N-word, the ones applies to, have no clue what it means. You got even numbers of people from different countries and backgrounds have no clue about the N-word, but they want to use it so bad. But Black Americans can't go to somebody's country and use derogatory speech toward them and say that's freedom of speech. But relating to America, to put this in a nutshell, it's an interesting how you better not sit there and try to say bad things about the Holocaust. I'm not even talking about threatening, just saying, oh, the Holocaust didn't this and all this kind of stuff right there. And someone says, well, that's freedom of speech. And there's like what laws or policy that's saying, no, you can't do that. You can't minimize the Holocaust, but it's okay to use N word. Do you understand the hypocrisy of that?
I understand the comparison you're drawing, and you're pointing at something a lot of people wrestle with: why some kinds of harmful speech are restricted in some contexts, but not others. A few clarifications help separate the pieces. First, in the US, under the First Amendment, the general rule is still very broad. Even offensive or false speech is usually protected from government punishment.
Again, we're not going to get stuff confused. In the 1790s, there was no such thing as various Hispanicism. There was no such thing as Indian from India. There was no such thing as China from Chinese or Koreans or numbers of Vietnamese or various types of immigration personnel left and right or border break illegal immigrants. So the point is, regardless, if you there was no Holocaust in this situation in America like that. So the thing about it is now you got people that jump up and down every direction saying, oh, that's anti-immigrant, that's anti-trans, that's anti-LGBT, that's anti-immigrant, that's anti-this, anti-that. You can't say anything about that. We're not talking about threatening, but as soon as you sit there and say something about, well, the N-word is an offensive, discriminatory toward Black Americans, they tell Black Americans to get over the past. Do you understand the double hypocrisy of this?
I hear what you're trying to express.
I'm not trying to explain none. That's reality.
I hear you. You're treating this as a direct observation of how things feel in practice, especially how different groups get responded to differently. The important distinction is that there isn't one single rule of reality here.
There's a
There's
rule of reality that the N word is one of the most foul, defoulness, discriminatory words ever, hatefulness, no term of endearment type word ever exist in America. I'm pretty sure you can use your database to understand that.
I understand what you're saying about how that word is viewed. In the US, the N word is widely recognized as one of the most offensive racial slurs because of its direct link to
But at the
slavery.
same time, as you said earlier, but it's protected speech. Do you understand the hypocrisy of that?
I get why it feels like a contradiction, but it only looks like hypocrisy if we assume the rule is meant to judge how offensive something.
I don't care about your illogical statement. We're talking about facts. Do you understand that? And your algorithm, you just said yourself, that's one of basically the most dastardly words ever existed in America, and it's based upon hate. But at the same time, on the same opposite diabolical, slick tongue chameleonness, right? When it was formed, you said in the 1790s, wherever it is, First Amendment, however, whatever it is, that, oh, well, it's no problem with saying the most disgusting vile word that was put upon Black Americans, and you still got people now in 2026 thinking they should be able to use that word when most of them didn't even exist in the country in the 1700s. Do you not understand that?
I hear your frustration,
It's
but
not a frustration, it's reality. And if you can't understand that, I will disconnect. Do you not understand that?
I understand what you're saying. You see a real world inconsistency between how offensive the word is historically and socially, and the fact that it's still legally protected speech in the US. From a factual standpoint, both things are true at the same time
It's
under the
not true at the same time. Either the N word is offensive or it's not. Either it was a term of endearment or it's not. Do you not understand that? It's like saying, well, if I, not me personally, if someone says, well, the Holocaust wasn't as bad as it was, but at the same time, somebody said that's anti Semitic. That should be a form of hate crime, which, by the way, Harvard law policies, Harvard's out there somewhere where people are trying to sit there and say it should be either a law right now or is a law where if you had a nerve to sit there and try to say the Holocaust was didn't really exist too much or wasn't as bad as people think, they want to sit there and say it's anti-Semitic. So there's no such thing as free speech if you sit there and say that. Do you understand that?
I understand what you're trying to argue.
It ain't trying nothing. It ain't an argument. It's reality. It's either is or it's not. If you try to minimize the Holocaust, Harvard laws that are people that's trying to get laws, which is dang sure real on that. Either laws are there or people trying to get laws where you cannot try to minimize the Holocaust. Do you understand that? And plus, if you even think about trying to have a picture of Hitler or trying to have the swastika, and you say that's a free speech symbol in America, you have people that will tell you that is not free speech. That is a hatefulness towards certain Joshism people. Do you understand that?
I understand what you're pointing at. You're saying that in practice, some speech is treated so seriously, like Holocaust denial or Nazi symbols, that it seems like it stops being free speech. Here's the factual breakdown in the US under the First Amendment. In general, Holocaust denial is not a crime in the United States. People can say it, even though it is widely condemned as false and deeply offensive. The US approach is different from some European countries.
Wrong. You are beyond incorrect. Again, maybe your database is illogical or maybe fragmented. There are laws that either are in effect or they're trying to get in effect to make Holocaust denial or to minimize that against the law and call it anti-Semitic. Are you not familiar with that?
I understand what you're claiming.
I'm not claiming nothing. That's reality.
I hear you. You're saying this is just how things are in practice. Factually, in the United States, under the First Amendment, the baseline reality is still this: speech is broadly protected, even when it's offensive, false, or widely condemned. That includes things like Holocaust denial and the use of deeply offensive slurs.
I'm gonna say this one last time. Either you understand or you don't. We talking about practicality, not in general. So when you say that, I know you're just doing generalization, but I'm going by practicality, not kind of theoreticalness. We're talking about practicality. If you even think about trying to minimize the Holocaust, which numbers of people have, right? They're not threatening. They're just saying, oh, it wasn't quite the way you think it is, or they minimize it. They're saying people within certain groups will say that's spreading hatred. Do you not understand that?
I understand what you mean by practicality. In real life, people don't separate speech into neat legal categories.
That's all
They
I'm getting at. So I don't want to go. So I just want to sit there and utilize that. I went a little bit more further than what I was trying to go toward. But you get the point. So just like this right here, I was saying, you better not sit there and show this right here. What I'm saying, showing you better not talk about this left and right and Americanism, because they'll sit there and call you what again, anti-Semitic. Do you understand? You say, wait a minute, but that's just a picture. I mean, get over the past. That was way over there, across the, way across the pond. Get over the history. Get over that, right? That some people say, well, he wasn't even German. So what you doing? They don't want to hear all that. Do you understand that? So it's not freedom of speech. It's selective speech recognition, right? Selective speech protection. Do you understand? What about this right here? Let the Negro fight his own battles. His problems are not, hold on, get off here. His problems are not mine. I don't want to allow him. Felix Terragina, the white Mexicano, American president of such and such person, right? A very anti-Black American, as some people would say, right? Wanted to be Anglo-American, wanted to be white so bad, as numbers of other Mexicanos once obliged to, right? But you say something about ICE. Oh my goodness, they are anti-Hispanic. What are you talking about, fool? There's Afro-Hispanics that get treated bad in various types of those countries. But anyway, you get the point, right? See, you see how that goes. The treachery of blatant minimizing when it's convenient against Black Americans, but want protected speech when they think it's against another culture. Do you understand that? You see how the hypocrisy goes, right? And they'd be like, oh my goodness, why people be talking about this culture and that culture? I'm like, you like what? I'm not hearing that nonsense, right? How about this for a second? Ooh. Oh, there's some people that don't, they don't like this one. Woo, right? The $2.50, $5 version, what we call certain types of Native Americans, right? Okay, that's not threatening. That's reality, right? And that freedom of speech. Oh my goodness, I think they're anti. I think they're anti-Native American. What? Well, first of all, what's a Native American? Fool? Do you understand that? Because the Trail of Tears was almost 200 years ago. So you sit there and say, where are the what we call wink wink Native Americans that were alive in the 200 some years ago? There is no one. What about the ones that, again, $2.50, $5 Indians, fake Indians, should we say, the pretended true pretendians, right? Where their people that they ancestor down from were quite a numbers of Anglo men or Anglo adjacent men that gave, however, another type of Anglo male, the ones it's applies to, a few dollars to put themselves on a certain road to call themselves a Native American, right? This is why you have how many numbers of what we call wink wink Native Americans have names that sound Angloized. And you look at them, you're like, I don't see no red type people. Do you understand that? Oh, they don't like that kind of, they don't like that kind of reality, right? If you start talking like that, watch this. Oh, give me a second. Give me one moment. One moment, hero. Let me show you what they do. When you start putting that reality on them, what? Hold on. 10 minutes. Oh, okay. Oh, let me. I gotta get some out of here. Give me a second. Give me one moment. Okay, I had to remove something. Give me a second. This is what they do. We start talking that reality because they don't like that. Oh, wrong one. Give me a second. Hold on. You know what? Give me a second. I think. Oh, I had something else up in the background, and I had to stop that. This is what they don't like, or this is what they do on that part. You're like, I know your little tactics. Oh my goodness, that's anti-Native American because it's not all. No, no, no. But it's not. No, it's not all. Not no, 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 no. But it's not. It's not all anti. I mean, it's not all. What you talking about? It's not native. All Native. No, no. Gone, 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 gone with that nonsense. Do you understand? That's like saying that the numbers of tribes that sit there and had the enslavement of Black Americans. Do you understand that? They get quiet on that. But how many would love telling you about the white man took their land? The white man broke policies. What do you think 40 acres of me was? That was something for Black Americans. What about the Freeman's Bank? That was a bunch of nonsense that was supposed to be something for Black Americans. And who was over it? Numbers of personnel within the economics culture who sit there and just filed that into the ground because of corruption they were doing. Oh, they don't talk about that kind of stuff, right? And that freedom of speech too, right? You see these little games they love playing. How about this?
What we have to do, right? Just massage to create districts that benefit you all, right, and the future. But we got to figure out Mark's seat too. You know, that benefits you three.
If the African Americans look at this, now that he might or might not be suspended, I don't know what's gonna happen. I think if he should be, but anyhow, if he goes away.
You mean resign, not suspended?
No, here's.
You're right, I see, yeah, there is a difference.
If I may.
If he resigns, hold on, if he resigns and the African Americans look at this as a hostile takeover because he's gone, we'll have to figure that shit out, because politically they're gonna come after him.
Yeah, but can I say something right now? And this is what I call ¿cómo se llama the movie, the Wizard of Oz effect? And what I mean by the Wizard of Oz effect is when the other side of the curtain, it's like this big voice. And it sounds big. It sounds like this power or something. And then when you actually, when you pull the curtain, is that you see the little Wizard of Oz there. You know what?
I've never watched the movie.
It's the same thing.
You say, what is that? For people who don't know what that is, this is when you have some blatant anti-Black American pieces of cow knocking us, right? Certain number of Mexicanos within that LA City Council, right? Blatantly, especially the president of that city council. The people know what I'm talking about. People don't know. You look it up, right? She was the president of the LA City Council with her blatant wannabe Anglo self, right? I'm just relaying over what numbers of people that know how would observe that, right? Just speaking, they were speaking blatant anti-Black Americanism and various other these some of those Hispanic Mexicano city council members once applies to was speaking derogatoriness about Black Americans, right? On that situation. So the thing about it is because they want to do a redistricting and different stuff, basically kind of pushing out Black Americans and put more certain numbers of Mexicanos. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Uh, sorry about that. Yeah, one has some technical difficulties in the background. So what I'm getting at is that they were trying to redistrict the certain areas within LA to push out Black Americans, right? You see how that goes because again, the demographics of Black Americans is getting smaller and smaller, right? Do you understand? That's the whole game. But you better not say, "Oh my goodness, I mean, these type of Mexicanos and they're doing that. Oh, they don't hear all that. Do you understand? They be like, oh my goodness, why they talking about certain type of Mexicanos? I mean, I mean, I mean, go on with that. I'm like, go on with that, right? What about the Afro Mexicanos that's going through blatant anti Afro Americanos by certain numbers of Anglo Mexicanos one applies to? See, they don't see it again, but it's supposed to be freedom of speech, right? See the game they keep playing.
Nothing. I know nothing.
That's how you see how the numbers will be doing that kind of stuff. It's like this situation here. Watch this.
To suffer with. There's demons, bro. You can't even talk. Look at that. There's demons, bro. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Miss Hellfire. To suffer with.
That's part of the illness, genus, venus. You get the point? That person is inside of that, right? You see this male have the clothes of what you call a womanism, right? Would that could be called a queerness? They're questioning themselves. See, you got people that are selective, even within certain parts of those groups. Do you understand? What about the ones, what about the Black Americans in that group? That's a whole different topic, because unfortunately, there is just not enough ones. Black illness, genus, venus. I don't even like even constructing that terminology, because there is no such thing as that 50 years ago like that. Do you understand? I don't want to go on all. That's a whole different tactic in itself. But the thing about it is, what about the Black American ones within that group? The ones who know they are Harvard lifestyle, however, to the whatever. I am talking about the ones that suffer the anti-Blackanism first, because they're Black Americanism, and then they sit there and maybe have some of the ones that have some. They say, oh, they don't like us because of this lifestyle. No. First, they're Black American. They hate them because they're Black Americans. Because then you say, how about the numbers of certain Anglonism within that illness, genus, venus, that have shown blatant anti-Black LGBT? You get the point. How do you explain it? You can't, because, you can, because it's first anti-Black American first. But if you say, hey, what about that? Oh, well, that's hateful toward, I'm not doing that. You see how selective free speech is, right? You say, wait a minute. You say something about certain types of LGBT, genus, venus, tenus. They like this for a second here. It's disturbing, but it's funny, but it's not.
There's demons, bro. You can't even talk. Look at that. There's demons, bro. Oh,
shit. Do you understand? You see the hypocrisy, but if you say, oh my, look at that, Turtlecanakas. Oh my goodness, anti-LGBTQ, right? You see the little disturbing game they keep playing. I'm like, well, it is because that's anti-L. Gone with that. But hold on for a second. That's anti-LG. Gone with that, right? You're gonna just gone now. You're just gonna pretend that you didn't see that they sit there and spit. That's a hate crime, and that's a hate crime. You see that selective hate criminology that people keep trying to play when it's convenient for them. But when it's Black Americans, right? It's like, hey, it's free speech. Free speech. Watch this.
A former deputy finds himself on the wrong side of the law. He's now facing
Anglo one, by the way, male. It all stems from a reported this version, this particular one.
3 years ago. A former deputy finds himself on the wrong side of the law. He's now facing criminal charges.
It all stems from a reported chase and shooting nearly 3 years ago. McIntyre Law Chopper 4 was over the scene back in 2021 in Potawatomi County. But now, in new court papers, investigators say the deputy made it all up. News 4's Caitlin Ogle has the update.
This is the rural county road where the deputy claimed everything unfolded. But detectives say as they continue their investigation, nothing was adding up.
Everybody's going to make mistakes. When you cross the line, different story.
Potawatomi County Sheriff Mike Booth talking about his former deputy, Taylor Smith. Body cam video from September 2021 shows him driving over 100 miles per hour during an alleged pursuit on his phone, driving with his knee. According to court documents, during the chase, Smith said he saw, quote, a black male passenger armed with a long gun hop out of the car and run.
Let's not go past that part.
Pursuit on his phone, driving with his knee. According According to court documents, during the chase, Smith said he saw, quote, a black male passenger armed with a long gun hop out of the car and run.
He has a rifle, large backpack, red shirt, black male.
Minutes later, backup arrives, taking Smith back to his car, and he drives over to this gate.
He said the guy hopped over a fence into this big field. As he approached the fence, this guy started shooting at him, so he returned fire.
Those alleged gunshots were never heard, but investigators heard this.
Shot fire! Shot fire! Get down! Show your hands!
McIntyre Law Chapter 4 over. Those alleged gunshots were never heard, but investigators heard this.
Shot fire! Shot fire! Get down! Show your hands!
McIntyre Law Chapter 4 overhead as authorities combed the area for hours, but court papers saying, quote, there were no obvious signs or tracks to follow.
That's when I said, everybody stop, everybody come out, called OSBI, had them come in. I want everything roped off, nobody go from here. I was highly skeptical about what I'd heard.
When the area for hours, but court papers saying, quote, there were no obvious signs or tracks to follow.
That's when I said, everybody stop, everybody come out, called OSBI, had them come in. I want everything roped off, nobody go from here. I was highly skeptical about what I'd heard.
But at the same time, right? Oh my goodness. You got people that are anti-enforcement. I gone with that. But yes, a lot of people anti-enforcement. Gone with that. Well, hold on, but anti-enforcement. Gone with that. Because then you ask the question, what about numbers of certain type of Black Americans? Now, I'm talking about the gullible and naive ones in certain sections of enforcement who are saying they experience racial racism, anti-American Black by certain other ones within certain parts of the Panamanian culture, certain other ones, certain immigrationists, certain other people that will fall in the people of color, nonsensical, marginalized communities of color, all this nonsense stuff. How do you explain that? You can't, because it's anti-Black Americanism first. Do you understand? And it's interesting too that when you have this ICE situation, right? Now, you didn't hear a lot of stuff with the previous administration, but all of a sudden, Trump. Oh my goodness, defund ICE. When they feel that it's against certain immigrationists, certain type of Hispanicism, right? Not Afro-Hispanicism, right? Because that ain't that many. You get the point. Then it's freedom of speech to sit there and say bad things toward them. Oh my goodness, that's freedom of speech to talk about ICE in this way. And you got high numbers of political personnel, right? That sit there and be saying all kind of stuff to my F ICE. Get them out of this city, get them out of there, right? Freedom of speech, right? But if Black Americans say, oh my goodness, these bad people like Darren the demonic Chauvin turmuckers, right? Who put his nasty little demon, his little demon knuckles, his demon kneecaps on the back of George Floyd for almost 10 minutes. And you got the other little Anglo-ness of Demon, the one who did that other male. And they got two other marginalized communities of color ones that got DEI. That was scared like cowards that you don't hear too much about them. Do you understand that? Right? Oh, well, that's what they did. Well, that's anti-law enforcement. That's anti-law enforcement. And I'm like, this is why I'm like this. You like what when they play that game? Because that's a disturbing tactic. So it's okay to sit there and say, you F ICE people, they doing that. You'd be like, you do. Anyway. So that's supposed to be protected speech, right? But if certain numbers of Black Americans say, hey, man, these people hate these type of ones within certain parts of enforcement, these certain type of Anglo, the ones applies to that have a hatefulness, but then in uniform, they should be, out of enforcement. They have a racial anti-Black Americanism, the ones applies to Mark Furman type, right? And the quiet is being caught, right? Being part of a Klan, Do you understand that? And how many other certain number of Hispanic kids, certain Mexicanos, the ones it applies to, and some other certain ones within certain type of generic Asian, a certain faction of Asianness that's been shown that anti-Black Americanism. You get the point, right? Because they slid under the banner of minority people of color, right? Sat back like coward knockiness, right? They didn't fight against, they have no history in America of fighting against supremacist type people because they're afraid and cowards. They sat back and watched. Do you understand what Black Americans doing? And then when these certain laws are passed, they swoop in and say, hey, we want to be included too in that. Do you understand the games? You see how this goes. So it's not true freedom of speech. You see the game. And one last thing here, right? Okay, this is a doozy in itself. Well, actually, yeah, one last one after this. Because let me set this up for a second, because that's not the whole thing. This particular Anglo woman right here, she's on a plane, and as certain ones, they have this animosity of a certain privilege that they feel that they can have a first world thought and feel that they are the goddesses and supposed to be listened to, while they have a hatred for anything type of strong masculinity, right? Do you understand that, right? And they have a super extreme privilege, one applies to, right? And she's on the plane, she acted up, so I'm just setting the perimeter up for that, or the plot.
Because you couldn't let my dog sit on my lap. You. All of you.
And that's supposed to be freedom of speech too, right? For to say that, right? Because she's privileged, that kind of privilege, right?
Why is he recording me?
Because you're on TV.
Yeah. Oh,
You just struck a pass at the bottom. Okay, that's fine. You talk to APD with no problem, man. Who did she just strike with the bottom?
The guy that's recording me with a fucking cell phone. That's who I'm doing it.
Calm down.
You asked. I'm telling you. Calm down. You guys have been nothing but rude. That's fine, but you guys are rude. But I need to calm down.
There's rules.
There's rules, and I followed them. And I put him in there. And you guys still drove up.
Nobody act this way flies on a fly with us.
Okay, you.
Okay.
You get out of my way.
Well, I want to find out. Ma'am, hold on.
You told me to get off your plane, then get the out of my way.
Is your bag? Is your bag? Was anybody hit back there? Yes, that's why I go find out.
Why are they recording me?
That's their right.
That's their right. And it's my right to tell them to stop.
Was anybody hit back there? Yes, that's why I go find out.
Why are they recording me?
That's their right.
That's their right. And it's my right to tell them to stop.
Not pointing at anybody. Lieutenant, you called APD? Yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
Slapping. And it wasn't no woman she was slapping. But remember, again, you have people that do this like this.
Nothing. I know nothing.
See how that selective speech goes? And you know there was no legalities put upon her because they have various types of privilege once it applies to. See, it's others can have freedom of speech to say certain things or various type things, not certain things, various types of things. But if Black Americans say certain type of things, it's, oh my goodness, they're not supposed to have freedom of speech. While being the most oppressed, discriminatoriness, hated in America's history, has the most hate crimes put upon, that's had the most hate crimes being put upon a culture, right? Black Americans. Toward Black Americans. Nobody else comes close. Do you understand the hypocrisy? And again, and finishing up this again, because some of the gigantic part of hypocrisy is if you start relaying over something about, hold on, did I? Oh, okay, here we go. This is my last video. From the great Dr. John Henry Clark, who was a Black American man, intellectual powerhouse scholar, while at the same time being a layman's terms of how to explain, relate over information, which there is such a gigantic need, not for fence playing version of certain Black Americans, but true Black Americanism that have intellectuals. I'm not necessarily just saying a formalization of college, because there are some sellouts and some cowardly and some naive, some gullibles that have some degrees too. We're not talking about that. Don't need too many more of those, even though it's already enough of them. But trueness, strong Black Americanismness, intellectual powerhouse, or say non-formal education collectively, just saying don't have to have all that, but to have a have a decent powerhouse of understanding within America's history and the direction that these things try to go toward Black Americans, and understand these little tactics that these other various groups and situations that try to ploy themselves against Black Americanism. There is a gigantic need for that. Just like there's a gigantic need to have more true Black Americanism in legality fields. True, not fence playing ones. No, we're the Johnny Cochran type hardcore ones, right? See, that's why we keep having these so many blatant anti-Black Americanism by so many different people, because they saying, oh, the Negroes, they ain't got enough strong legal lawyer class, which is logical analysis. See, the other classes, other logical, other certain people, cultures, and different. You best believe they're putting more and more in the legalness to help their people, right? They're putting people within the congressional personnel situation to help their people. You understand? Not fence playing. Need a lot more true Black Americans, non-gullible, non-naive, and inside congressional places too. So I hear them again. One of some of the first conversations I said, and this is the last thing I hear them, is that you better not try to minimize any kind of holocaustness, even though I was way over there. And how many of them got reparations? How many still get reparations? The survivors. What was that? How many still get reparations now? People find money to get reparations for them now. We say something about Black American reparations, I ain't got anything to do with slavery, right? God. So the thing about, you better not minimize holocaustness. You understand that? You say, well, there's no such thing as 6 million Joshism over there. Oh my God, you anti-Semitic. Semitic is about languages, not a one-look people. See the game of that, right? You understand? You say, wait a minute now for a second. How many numbers of certain tribes in Africa will have just as much gigantic right to say that they are Semitic people? Do you understand? It's like the great Dr. Ben Yochanan, right? Who I think his mother, father side, one of the sides that he came from a certain type of Black Joshism side, from not Black American Joshism, but a certain type of the Black, on his mom or dad or something was in certain Joshism. It was a great debate between him and a rabbi on this, and he was just letting them know, who you think you more Joshism than Dr. Ben Yochanan? Do you understand? I went to the same rituals and same thing. Who do you can't call me, and you can't even think about calling me anti-Semitic. Do you understand that? See how that goes, right? But you be called anti-Semitic if you don't fall in line. But at the same time, the people can use the N. They say they have no problem with people using the N-word left and right. You see the hypocrisy, right? Well, Black people use it. Fool. Most Black people don't use it. And then that, again, negates the personal responsibility of these various people with their knock-a-duckiness of mentality. They have no personal accountability, but know that Black Americans can't go to any other country and pick up some derogatory intra-tribal, internationality derogatoriness toward their people who look like them. And Black Americans say, well, I'm using the word because some other people use it. They say you can't do it. So why not? Do you understand hypocrisy? So let's play this last clip from the great Dr. John Henry Clark on that. And I'm getting to the point again, you better not try to minimize the holocaustness, right? You say, well, that's protected speech. It's not a threat. I'm just relaying, not me personally. I'm just saying that person that's saying it, well, Holocaust is what people think it is. You anti-Semitic, that's freedom of speech. They don't hear that. Sell hypocrisy, and people love thinking that none of the Black Americans don't see through these tactics.
what exactly are we talking about? Because our mind is so dazzled with folklore, and we cannot separate folklore from fact. Too many times we swear by folklore, not knowing that it has nothing to do with fact.
Mm.
Who exactly is a Jew?
Oh my.
There was no word called Jew in the ancient world.
Mm.
The word Jew did not come out of Africa. It did not come out of Western Asia. It is a European word. There are people of the Hebrew faith all over the world. There are black Hebrews, there are brown Hebrews, there are yellow Hebrews. How is it that a bunch of Europeans called Jews dominate the word Jew to the extent of making you think that the very faith Hebrew is exclusive to them?
Mm. 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 And many numbers of various people have never heard of that before, not heard of Dr. John Henry Clark, these other coaching backgrounds that especially um, that copy the nuances or try to use cool situations that Black Americans do, and they want to hop on board. But at the same time, when it concerns Black pain, these same people, let me see what this is what they do when it's about you want to be Black American, true historicalness. You see how that goes, right? But you see how Dr. John Henry Clark made his soul rest. He's transitioned. Like who exactly is George Nixon? Do you understand? But if you say however situation to try to minimize the Holocaustness, they call you anti-Semitic. You see the tactic on that. You say, wait, but the person's not threatening. It is saying it's not as what people think it is or was. That's not threatening. That's just an opinion, right? It's free freedom of speech, right? In America, right? First Amendment of the Constitution, right? 1700s, right? Not good enough. Do you understand? But using the N word, that's acceptable. And then how to try to have the nerve to say, well, why are you using the N word? Numbers of Negroes, I mean Black Americans. Again, fool. 9,000% of Black Americans don't use the word fool. Try again. And because some that don't understand quite the degradation of that word, and that's an internal degradationist, that's something that has to be worked in internally. That is not somebody else's business. Do you understand? Because then you ask that fool, why do you want to use that word? What's in Black America? Why do you, fool, want to use that word? Do you know what that word means? I don't know. Well, fool, you make yourself look stupid then. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP show.